I just kind of lost control of myself, and I tore my diaphragm out, so I don't know if I'd ever work with Darren again.
It's an actor's job to dive deep into a character, to truly deliver a performance worth our time. And while we may benefit from some of these performances, the actors involved feel the exact opposite. Welcome to Beyond the Screen. I'm Nate, and today we're breaking down the top 10 celebrities forever changed by their roles. Number 10, Bill Skarsgård. Hiya, Georgie! Okay, apologies to anybody named Georgie, that was very scary and I did not warn you. Once in a while, an actor will fall so deep into the psyche of a character that they never return. Half of the entries on this list are people who lost it after playing a character that was just too much mentally speaking. For Bill, that character was Pennywise the Dancing Clown in 2017's live-action It adaptation. The film, based on Stephen King's classic and long novel, it follows the story of 6 kids who fight off an evil shape-shifting entity that feeds on fear and returns 27 years later when they're adults, forcing them to return to their hometown and end the evil once and for all. It's genuinely a great movie, part 1 more than part 2, but the best thing about both parts was Bill's performance as the titular clown. He was able to use real-world party tricks for his portrayal of the character, like slowly parting his eyes in opposite directions or curling his lip. He of course had to go to some dark places to get into the right headspace of the character, but thankfully he wasn't one of those guys who was always in character when the cameras were off, so it wasn't all that crazy. What is crazy is the fact that when production wrapped, Bill was seeing Pennywise everywhere and was unable to escape the mental toll that the character had taken on him. He claims that the clown would regularly appear in his dreams and be a source of nightmares for months. While he eventually did get over it, we can't help but think how horrifying it would be to see Pennywise in real life. Number 9, Heath Ledger. Heath was making moves as a romantic comedy and drama actor, starring in movies like 10 Things I Hate About You and Brokeback Mountain. But it was his turn as the Clown Prince of Darkness, the Joker, in Christopher Nolan's 2008 Batman sequel, The Dark Knight, that truly sent him off the rails. He delivered what is considered to be the greatest performance of not only his career, but as the Joker, still being brought up whenever the debate of who is the best happens. Heath was incredible, but Jack Nicholson will always be my Joker. Unfortunately, only a few months before the film released in theaters, Ledger suffered a fatal substance overdose and he passed away. In the years that followed, many speculations began circulating that the role he played may have been a contributing factor to his poor mental health. While his family adamantly denies this, the proof is in the pudding, so to speak. When the production began, Heath isolated himself from his fellow actors, and he kept a diary of disturbing images to enter the realm of a psychopath. Following the end of the shoot, he reportedly found it difficult to sleep without the help of sedatives and painkillers, which were the combination that ultimately led to the overdose. It seems that playing the Joker takes its toll on any and all who don the bright green wig, so if a man from DC ever offers you that role, just say no and walk away! Number 8, Johnny Depp. Johnny may not be as busy as he once was thanks to a very messy and very public court case with his ex-wife Amber Heard. Before all that jazz, Johnny was considered to be a versatile and talented actor, appearing as everything from Sweeney Todd, the demon barber of Fleet Street, to Willy Wonka, the demon candy maker of Sweet Street. In 1998, Johnny starred as an extravagant version of the writer Hunter S. Thompson in the film Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, alongside Hollywood heavyweight Benicio del Toro as his lawyer. Both characters spend the majority of the movie taking illicit substances and tripping hard, so to speak. We see things through the eyes of Depp several times, leading to some cartoonishly uncomfortable moments. Seriously, this is just, the movie is great, but it's icky at the same time. To properly get into the mindset of his psychedelic character, he moved into the basement of the real-life Hunter S. Thompson to learn about him as a person. By the time filming began, Depp's uncanny portrayal had the cast and crew on edge. Was he just committed to the role, or did all that private time with Thompson lead to a new hobby, so to speak? Even after the film wrapped, Depp and Thompson continued to spend time together, apparently growing very close, until Thompson took his own life in 2005. To give his buddy a proper send-off, Johnny reportedly spent $3 million to have him cremated and shot his remains out of a cannon. It looks like that had a massive effect on his mental health. I'm not saying he was sane before. We can all agree that since the turn of the century, his roles have gotten stranger. His acting is better and more unhinged, and oh yeah, he might have made a poo-poo in the bed. Number 7. Uma Thurman. Many directors throughout history have latched onto a specific actor and used them as inspiration for their work. Martin Scorsese has Robert De Niro and Leonardo DiCaprio. The guy really likes the last names. Tim Burton has Johnny Depp. John Carpenter had Kurt Russell. And of course Quentin Tarantino has Uma Thurman, first collaborating together on the 1994 flick Pulp Fiction. Tarantino claims that despite the many loyal actors that he has on his list, Uma is one of the greatest muses he has. Uma is one of his greatest muses. Though they became fast friends on set, it wouldn't be until 2003 that the pair would work together again to deliver one of the best action films of all time, Kill Bill Volumes 1 and 2. The kung fu-fueled masterpiece was filled with incredible set pieces, mountains of action, and one near-fatal misstep on Uma's part. Quentin makes a lot of weird requests during filming. If you want proof, take a sip for every foot shot he has ever filmed and you'll be hammered, bud. The weird request for this one was making Uma perform her own stunts, including one which involved the actor driving into a curve. The stunt went horribly wrong, and Uma found herself in the midst of a life-threatening car crash. Though she did make it out alive, it was not unharmed. She had suffered contusions, a concussion, and severe damage to her knee that still exists today. Thankfully, despite the rickety knees, she got back on her feet, filmed a sequel, and has gone on to have a stellar career, and is now considered to be one of Hollywood's most legendary action stars. Number 6. Colin Firth. Colin is an Oscar-nominated performer who almost voiced the character of Paddington the Bear before being recasted during post-production. He had to take several months of speech therapy after starring as future King of England, King George VI. The king famously had a speech impediment which caused him to stumble and fumble through most of his speeches. To properly prepare for the role, he began watching clips of King George's speeches, as well as hiring a vocal coach to help him properly portray the tics and stutters that George experienced. That meant that Colin would purposefully stutter while he spoke both on and off screen. A solid method for sure, but maybe when he was home alone he should have just practiced speaking normally again, because following the film's release and premiere, Colin still found himself uncontrollably stuttering constantly, so much so that he eventually had to hire another speech therapist to eliminate the situation. That took almost an entire year to get rid of. Thankfully these days he's returned to being the smooth talker that we all know and love him as. Number 5. Nick Cage. Alright, it's pretty hard to pinpoint exactly what role changed this man, considered to be one of the strangest men in Hollywood. He's a method actor that has never actually said he is, but it's painfully obvious from his behavior. For the sake of argument, let's say that he started losing it around 1990. At that time, he gave one of the weirdest interviews in talk show history on a talk show called Wogan. The second he comes out, he is dropping karate kicks left and right, he throws a wad of cash into the audience, and he removes his shirt under his leather jacket and does the entire interview just bare-chested. Nick was once a normal man just wanting to be paid to do the thing that he loves, but unfortunately, whether it's the pressure of Hollywood or the pressure of life in general, Nick's mind seemingly snapped and he has been a chaotic presence both on set and on screen. Number 4. Sarah Paulson. Sarah earned massive amounts of acclaim for her starring role in the popular TV series American Horror Story. Unfortunately for her main role on the show, Sarah was forced to smoke ciggy wiggies on set despite not actually partaking in the nasty habit herself. That did change though. According to Sarah, she admitted that after the initial disgust of smoking for the first time wore off, she started to crave the tobacco sticks for real, to the point where she apparently grew impatient on set and was only calm while filming a scene with smoking involved. Some people may see this as an extreme form of method acting, as she was portraying a real person, Marcia Clark, who was a well-known chain smoker in real life. But the reality was that she developed a bad habit thanks to a role. Thankfully, Sarah is a celebrity who can actually afford to hire someone to literally smack the cigarettes out of her hand. I wonder how much they make. Number 3. Bob Hoskins. If you're unaware with Bob's work, I pity you, you poor unfortunate soul. Bob had a stellar film career, and while he may have made some missteps along the way, Mario movie, he is remembered by Hollywood as one of the greatest. In 1988, he played the private eye gumshoe Eddie Valiant in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, a film which follows Hoskins as the cartoon-hating detective who becomes the titular cartoon rabbit's only hope to prove his innocence when he's accused of ending a man's life. Why doesn't Hollywood make more movies like this anymore? The film features a combination of live action and animated characters. This meant that whenever Bob was speaking to Roger on set, he was just talking to a blank empty space next to himself for a while. Hoskins admitted that during filming, he developed the ability to hallucinate Roger and the rest of the crew to help him perform better in scenes. This was to cope with the unnerving fact that the cartoon lines were being delivered but off screen and out of Bob's job site. When shooting finally ended, Hoskins was always talking to himself, and he even still hallucinated that Roger was sitting in the same room as him for a long time. For obvious reasons, his doctor recommended that he take a break from making movies for a while. That break must not have done the trick though, because he was still crazy enough to say yes to playing Mario in the live-action Super Mario Bros. Movie from 1993. I just got weird fungus-fueled flashbacks. Number 2, James Cromwell. James is that kind of actor who you may not know by his name, but his distinct face and physique allow you to recognize him the second he's on your screen. In one of his few leading roles over the years, James played Farmer Hoggett in the 1994 movie Babe. The film followed the titular pig raised by sheepdogs on a rural English farm who learns to herd sheep with a little help from Farmer Hoggett. The film itself is seen by many as a children's classic that still holds up to this day. While James was the leading man of the pig really stole the show according to Cromwell himself. But it all worked out. Babe went on to make a massive wave at the box office, and James decided to alter his eating habits for the rest of his life. According to James, the experience of filming the flick was a turning point. He recounts one particular day on set and how profoundly he was affected by seeing the little piglet react to being put on a patch of grass. He said, when that little pig was put down on that big patch and saw that blue sky and the green grass and the sea, that pig just took off. I wanted no part of that problem. Cromwell has been an ardent supporter of animal rights ever since, and went from just casually flirting with the concept of veganism to signing a mortgage and raising a family with it. And at number 1, Shelly Duvall. For those unfamiliar with Miss Duvall's work, it's probably because her last director was such an evil man that he made her quit the acting world. In 1980, Stanley Kubrick adapted and directed a film version of Stephen King's famous horror novel, The Shining. The film itself was well received by most people, except for Stephen King himself, who attribute their joy to the raw performances given from Shelley Duvall and Jack Nicholson. Jack played the unhinged groundskeeper sent mad by his isolation and the spirits that lurk within the walls of the Overlook Hotel. The performances come from a dark place, however. The director decided the best way to get a good performance from Shelley was to make her life a living hell on set. Her time on the shoot was spent being berated by Stanley, who even told the crew to ignore her cries of frustration and to just disengage emotionally. Shelley would drown herself in sad songs before every take to get into the headspace of her character, and she was made to refilm scenes over and over again, to the point where the film actually holds the Guinness World Record for most recorded takes of one scene. They took an astonishing 127 takes of the famous staircase scene where they've got a baseball bat, she keeps swinging it over and over. In later interviews, when asked about the scene, she said, to put a person in that position of feeling threatened and fearing for their life for 127 takes on a staircase is not legendary or the work of a perfectionist, it's damaging to the performer's mental health. On top of the physical damage left from having to swing an old wooden bat a million times, following the end of the shoot, Shelley decided to stop acting altogether and focus on maintaining a healthy personal life. Thankfully, it seems that she's done just that, as she is set to make her return to the acting world in a new horror flick called The Forest Hills without Stanley Kubrick behind the camera, so might be better this time for her. Those are the top 10 celebrities who were never the same after their roles. Are there any good ones that we missed? Well, let us know in the comments below. If you made it to the end of this video, go take a nap, you guys. You must be exhausted. Hit that like button if you enjoy our content and you want to see more. Thanks for stopping beyond the screen today, and we'll see you next time.